Hello, welcome to my English project exam thing, in which case I'll be doing a thematic analysis of several stories which we've actually read over this semester. They're obviously all from different units, and one was actually one from the test, and technically also test prep. Regardless, let's actually hop into what the stories are, as well as what the common theme is. So the stories I'll be analyzing today are The Contents of a Dead Man's Pocket, The First 7 Years, The Opportunity, and Powder. And the common theme that I was able to connect all of these to is the pursuit of one's desires requires a cost in exchange. Now, I know that seems a bit vague, but that's because the desire and the cost can't really be quantified until you get to the story, because everyone has different desires and everyone has different costs for those desires. That's the point of a universal theme, I think. So let's get into the first story. The first story is The Contents of a Dead Man's Pocket. In this story, we see a man, Tom, and his kind of adventures between two different aspects of his life, that of his family and his wife, as well as that of his work and, in a sense, getting a promotion, which he has to originally mentally struggle with, but then physically struggle with as his paper with all his work flies through a window and he tries to go rescue it. In this, he ends up getting stuck on the ledge and has to struggle between life and death as he crawls back to his room and has to break open his window, which could possibly see him fall several stories down and be completely flattened. But in the end, he returns to his room, and he discovers an important aspect about himself, an important idea about himself. And that idea connects to the common theme. You would have never have guessed it. And that is that he needs to put his work over his wife. His desire, which is his wife, aka his family, needs to be over the cost, which is the project which he had spent weeks filling with hard work and effort. And that project was organizing a new type of management system. And this can actually really be seen in the action and thoughts of Tom. As he was walking out of his room after he had finally got back into it to go to his wife, he sees the paper flying out, and he can't help but laugh, as seen on page 26. And this shows he actually has a big shift in his dynamics, because originally he was willing to put his work ahead of his life, but now you can see he's putting his life ahead of his work. He's going to see his wife instead of risking getting the paper again. Which shows he's understanding the actual desire which he needs to be putting, and he's putting at the cost of his work. And we can see this realization on page 25, when he says, "The contents of a dead man's pocket," he thought, "one sheet of paper bearing penciled notation, incomprehensible." And in this, Tom, as well as the reader, come to the realization that this work is utterly unimportant in the face of his actual death. Whereas him dying will have effects on his wife, his work will be relatively unaffected. It just won't mean anything. So he puts what actually matters, his actual desire, ahead of this, showing the theme. The next story we have is The First 7 Years. In this, it is the story of a father who is put in the difficult situation of having to decide a suitor for his daughter, Miriam. He has to decide between a snobbish young man who is very wealthy and could probably get Miriam the future that she wants, or a hard-working, honest, but older as well as poorer employee, Sabel. He tries to get Miriam to like the young man, but in the end, she doesn't. And eventually, he makes an agreement with Sabel to allow him to marry Miriam. Which brings us to our theme, which is the pursuit of one's desires requires a cost in exchange. However, we're not seeing this theme in the actions of the father. We're seeing it in the actions of Sabel, the employee, who put his years of hard work and labor of his life in order to get Miriam's hand in marriage. And this can be seen in the very end of the book, to where the father comes in to see that Sabel is actually just working hard, even after the agreement that they made. He's still working hard, just for love. as well as we can see that earlier on, 2 pages earlier, in fact, with the quote of, "Day after day, for 5 years he had sat at his bench, cutting and hammering away, waiting for the girl to become a woman." Which shows he has patience. He is waiting for Miriam to mature and waiting for her to eventually be able to marry him because he is in his older age. So he's waiting for it to be at a better time. And he's also waiting for the father's approval on this. Although the father is very, very late to actually allowing approval for it. In the end, of course, the father allows him to marry her after 2 more years, making it a total of 7 years, which Sable still works through, which means Sable is putting this cost of his actual labor and of his actual just time in life in exchange for his desire of Miriam's hand in marriage. And the next story we have is The Opportunity, which actually sees a very somewhat similar kind of dynamic of a mother who wants a better life for her daughter, Elise. This mother originally wanted her daughter to go to trading school, but the daughter doesn't want to do that. She has bigger aspirations. She wants to be an actor, and a big-time actor at that. So, the daughter doesn't go to trading school. In fact, she just works a babysitting gig until eventually she's actually contacted by like this agent who's at one of the parents for her babysitting and offers her an acting gig, which she first accepts, but then eventually turns down after realizing that the play is utter rancid garbage. In this, we can actually see, once more, the common theme, which is that she wants to have integrity in her work, which she's willing to put at the cost of actually getting into this work. She opts out of getting of that acting gig. And we see this when she straight up to the face of the director, the playwright, the producer. She says, "I don't want to sign it. I read the play last night and I don't want to be in it." Which is incredibly bold of her to show the amount of integrity in her work that she wants, which could possibly get her blacklisted. But she does this because she realizes that the play is bad. That play is bad. And she doesn't want to have her first acting gig ruin her career, which would be her desire. So, that ties to the theme through the fact that she is putting this entryway below her actual integrity. Because she's preserving her integrity, she's pursuing her integrity, rather than having this entryway, which she knows will be bad. And this is a very difficult decision for her. But in the end, the decision ends up being the right one, because that play turns out to be just utter rancid garbage, as I said. And the mother even notes that there was some connection between the beauty of the girl's face and the beauty of her judgments, which shows she really did make the right decision to pursue her integrity rather than have this acting gig, which she knows would have been bad. The next story is Powder. This is the shortest of all the stories, and it is just simply a father taking his son out to go skiing for Christmas, but before they're actually able to leave, the snow builds up and the roads kind of freeze over. So it's either he is late to return home, causing tension with his wife and the mother of the son, or he risks his own life. And through undertones of the story, we can actually see that tension with his wife could cause him to be unable to see his son ever again. And this connects to the theme, obviously. And that is he desires to see and to love his son. And he wants the love of his son. And at this, he has the cost of risking his own life driving on the icy road, as well as there is legal implications within that. Because there was a blockade on the road set up by rangers. Now, how much legal authority rangers have, I don't really know. But still, there is that risk. There's just risks from driving on that icy road. But we can really see that he has a love for his son and he wants his son to be loved. Because in the car, he has a lot of time to talk with his son, and the son gets somewhat anxious and wants the father to list strong points, not actually seeing the love for that his father has for him. So the father does, uh, which shows the father is very attentive to his son and has a lot of love for his son, and he doesn't. And through this risk, he is showing that he's willing to put his life on the line for his son, which is the desire and the cost. And we can also see that he's willing to bend a little bit of the relationship between his mother, or rather his wife, in order to have still be able to see his son. You know, he didn't actually call to his mother, as seen on page 157, to report that they would have been late. Rather, he just didn't report it and just drove down the icy road, which actually allowed him to keep his promise, which prevented further strain on the relationship, allowing him to still see and love his son. So, in the end, we can all see the themes connecting within. Tom's decision after facing a life and death scenario to put his wife ahead of his work connects to the theme, as well as Sable's decision to put his work, under marriage, to have patience in order to have marriage, in order to marry. Elisa's decision to put her integrity ahead of her work and ahead of her dream of acting, and the father's decision to put his son's return to his mother above his safety. All of these connect to the theme of the pursuit of one's desires requires a cost in exchange, all having a cost,